Welcome back to American Lunchbox Podcast. First and foremost, guys, I want you to make sure that you know that we appreciate you guys coming and you appreciate your support for the show. If you really support the show, Chris, if they really supported the show, you know what they would do?
It's like a cult initiation thing?
Exactly. We're going to take them in the back room. But before we take them in the back room, what we want you to do is we want you to hit the subscribe button. And we want you to join the crew, you know, the American Lunchbox Podcast crew. Now, last week I failed to mention the other platforms, and I got some feedback about that because folks were saying, I don't listen on iTunes. Yeah. I listen on Spotify.
I honestly don't know what the other platforms are, so if you could
well,
let me know.
Yeah. Well, for those of you all who are listening to the podcast on iTunes, thank you so much. But also, too, you can tap in on Spotify. You can also tap in on Pandora. You can also tap in and tune in and radio.com.
Wow.
To name a few. We're everywhere, man.
We're big league.
We're big league, and we are in the building. We are on episode 28, and boy, do we have a great show for you. I love what we're going to be talking about today, Chris, because I think that this is going to be an eye-opener to kind of, you know, get rid of the confusion on a layperson's level that we can offer. Now, I know that you're smart, and you know that I can be a little brainy as well, but
he went to a magnet school.
Yes, went to a magnet school, and you know, I didn't go to I went to a decent college as well. But this conversation here is about something that we both feel very passionate about, you know, because at some point we were both in this space, and you are probably still in this space. But let's go ahead and continue to talk about it. Now, you guys have been following, whether you like it or not, you've been following what's been going on with the stock market. Now, for most people, they have no idea. This conversation is just taking over the news, right? But a lot of people are looking, saying, what the fuck is this about, right? Well, today we're going to go over this. We're going to take a deep dive for you guys so you guys can understand how and why this happened like it did. It's very interesting, actually. And be honest with you, it's never happened before.
Yeah, and it has less, don't worry, it has less to do with numbers than you might think.
Right. It's definitely, as if Chris and I are talking about it, you know it has something to do with the spin factor. So there is a spin.
Okay.
There is a spin. And you know there's a spin. Okay.
I don't know what it is yet.
Okay. We'll see this guy. So let's jump into this. First of all, to give you guys some background as to how this happened with GameStop in particular. There were other stocks that were involved. AMC was involved as well. But GameStop had its own ecosystem.
Yeah. Basically, places that are dying.
Basically. So what happened is this. When a stock, right, is on the down low, when it starts to fail, and unfortunately, a lot of businesses started to fail because of the COVID, and they were retail businesses. So naturally, what happens is that people start losing interest and they start bailing out on the stock, and the stock ends up failing. Okay. Well, GameStop was one of those stocks, and because this has always happened, this is nothing new, by the way. This idea of stocks failing and going down in value and their valuations going down to nearly nothing, sometimes even half a penny. Sometimes they're in the pence. Sometimes they're not even worth a penny.
Surprised they ran out of money after all those games I sold them for a nickel.
Now,
like they should have had a lot of money after all.
Now that's an important statement. Hold that statement for a second, because that's important. So GameStop was on the list of a lot of businesses that were failing, okay? But what happened is that when the businesses started to fail, hedge funds, the billion-dollar guys, the big businesses, and I'm not going to call them by name. I'm just going to use a general term, hedge funds, right? A hedge fund basically represents a group or conglomerate of businesses that come together and they buy and they sell stocks. It's legal, obviously, for the American culture and politics and for our economy. It's a part of the economy. So we invite people to buy and sell stocks. But when billionaires do it, they do it on such a grander scale that it sometimes will bring light to certain issues. And this is what happened. Chris, you want to jump in here?
Well, you can talk about the shorting?
Not the shorting yet.
Okay.
Not the shorting yet. So big hedge funds saw that this business was failing, and as a result of that, they started to bet on the business.
Bet on it failing.
Bet on it failing. Bet on the fact that people will lose their jobs. Now, this could be an ethical issue. What do you think?
Yeah, so shorting is there is some sort of function, although it seems like, why would you bet on a business to fail? Why would you
bet on people losing their jobs?
Well, part of it is to kind of find out where the real price of stuff is at the value. If you would try to short a stock that's not truly failing, it would blow up in your face. So there is risk to the people doing it. There's actually tremendous risk, which was exploited here, which is that if you do it, it's kind of like a short term, like you're really borrowing it. The way you're doing it is that you're committed to this transaction for the time being, and should the stock turn around, you're completely screwed out of an unlimited amount of money that you're now accountable for.
Now, with that being said, they're doing the odds because this has never happened. So it's almost like a sure bet. It's almost like a sure bet that these businesses are going to continue to fail, even with the stimulus. They're just not going to do it. And this particular business was already on its last leg because, of course, who buys and sells video games anymore, at least on the retail brick and mortar businesses?
Right. Well, yeah, that's the thing. A lot of video games have gone internet based. So unless it's really retro, like cartridge or old school stuff, that consoles that weren't connected to the internet, you wouldn't have it. But another problem here is that it's one thing to short a stock, which, even though it seems like it's unethical, is there is some sort of function for that in our economy. But in practice, what happens a lot of times, these hedge funds want to make sure they make money, so they'll do things like use the media to down talk the business that they are shorting, and they'll also overshort it. And
these are the guarantees that they put into place. And how do they do that? By doing the economy shows. The Sunday morning business shows. They'll talk about this stock and they'll talk about it failing, and what it to do, it continues to fail because they're setting this up so that they are betting on the fact that it fails, and if it continues to fail, they win billions more dollars.
Yeah, and the people on Reddit saw that they had overbet essentially bet against them.
So what happened here is that Reddit is a platform, and the platform is niche, but it is particularly for, as I would call it, nerds. Now, I say that because I'm a nerd as well. Okay, I don't say it because I'm putting them down, but it's a community of tech guys who help each other, and if you have a problem, you're going to get an answer because that community is very tight knit. So basically, what happened is the word got out on Reddit that this brick and mortar business. Now, here's what you have to remember: the guys on Reddit take great ownership in their shit. See, what you don't realize is that when you start poking at this group, this beast, then this group, these nerds, are going to have a problem. And this was the last of the Mohicans when it comes to their thing. So it's almost like I can talk about my mama, but you can't talk about my mama, kind of thing. You know what I'm saying? I can talk about my mama all out, but when you start talking about my mama, now we got a big problem. And that's exactly what happened. Yeah. When people start poking at what they thought as their last.
It's a combination of a few things. It was that there's a community of people that are looking for market vulnerabilities. It's that they had now a app that they could do all combine with the Robinhood app, and it's also that people had time sitting at home from COVID.
But even
it's a combination of a lot of things.
Now, see, that's interesting because again, this is the first time that this happened. So this group, there had to be a catalyst. It had to be a reason, and the reason was because of the GameStop brand. Because they could have done this a million times before. These groups existed before this GameStop situation.
Right. I question how much of them are just gamers versus how much of them are people who were waiting for some big fish to come along, and this happened to be the fish that they caught.
Again, it started with these guys, and people obviously jumped on board. Yes. Right. But what I'm saying is that this group of guys, gals, got themselves together and said, we're going to step in. These are individuals. This was not a collective. It was only a collective when they decided to come together and to buy the stock. So now these hedge fund guys have put all of this money in for this business to fail, And now this small group of individuals decide that we're going to step in and we're going to buy this particular stock, making the stock go up exponentially in a small amount of time. So it went from selling at 52 cents. It hit a low of 52 cents. 52 cents. And it jumped from 52 cents at its lowest to $365 at its highest.
Yeah, I mean, and what they're doing is also maybe legally a gray area or illegal, but no one gives a shit.
Exactly. Exactly. Because you fuck with the wrong nerds. That's what I'm saying. They fuck with the wrong community. Again, this has never happened before.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, gamers spend time figuring out how to solve riddles. So if you think you're going to throw them an easy one to beat them.
Exactly.
No.
Now, for you lay people out there, let me give you an example. Because I know you guys are saying GameStop. I don't know what GameStop or whatever. But this is equivalent. Now, check this out. This is equivalent to what most people would call, and they know about this in their communities. And they usually only see these in their communities about during Christmas time. But think about a Radio Shack. Okay? Now, when is the last time you've seen a Radio Shack? But they're still open. Right? Because that represents a small group of individual businesses that still are around from the old days and just barely are making it.
Yeah. There's still one Blockbuster open. There's one left. And their stock actually went up.
Block what? I don't even know what block what.
Well, I think it's just people saying if the economy's a joke in general, let's tell our joke. Why does it have to be your joke?
Exactly. And this is the small axe chopping down the big tree. That's what it is. It's a little guy saying, F you, big guy, we know how to make you hurt. And the way that we can do it is by getting you in your pocket. So as a result, Robinhood, right, was the app that was most used. It wasn't the only one, by the way, but it was the one that most used.
Yeah.
And they caught so much smoke and so much heat. Oh man, they were like, these hedge fund guys were. Now this is where the weird shit comes in, because the hedge fund guys are saying, Robinhood, stop. But Robinhood has a terms and agreements to its customers and says, we can't, because you can buy stock 24 hours a day, even when the stock market closes.
Yeah.
And Robinhood says, no matter if you buy it or not, in the morning when the stock opens, we're going to put it in for you.
Right.
That was the terms and agreements for Robinhood.
Yeah.
But these hedge fund guys say, no. You got to stop this. You got to stop this.
Yeah. We don't know why they shut it. We don't know why they shut down the trading, but obviously they wanted to stop the bleeding in one way or the other, whether it was based on how much money Robinhood actually had in the bank or someone telling them to. Either way, there's going to be a lot of like legal investigations, probably get called up to Capitol Hill to get yelled at for a little by people who actually don't understand stuff. Well, no, they will understand this a little better, because it's one thing when the senators are, Mr. Zuckerberg, how come my tweets were deleted? Oh. Senator, that is not my company, Senator. I know not of which you speak, Senator. No, they know a little bit about money, because some of them sometimes invest in ways based on policies they're about to pass, which also should be illegal, but they'll probably get away with it. But so what I really want to talk about is that the Wall Street bets, they got their server pulled, and it wasn't because of all the even collusion to buy the stock. It was because of, and this is going to happen a lot now, and we've been talking about this, they said they got it because of quote-unquote hate speech. How convenient.
Now,
and they said, a lot of people said they were no different than the insurrectionists. How convenient.
Sounds familiar? Now, we talked about this on past shows, and now we're seeing how the tables are suddenly turning.
Yeah, even some left-wing socialist Facebook page in Britain in the last week or two got the sudden axe. Once you set up an infrastructure of censorship, you are basically creating a situation in which people who are in positions of authority, or you want to say elite, But it's an
Power.
overused term. But basically, you're setting up a situation in which anyone who doesn't feel comfortable could point a finger at you for any reason and yell racist. And that's why you see rich white people yelling racist at a middle-class black cop. It's why you see people who are investing on Wall Street being called insurrectionists for investing in stocks because they're unhappy about their economic situation.
So
They
they
have been for years.
so they're throwing that word around quite loosely,
Yeah.
to benefit their cause. As a matter of fact, Jimmy Kimmel decided that he was going to get in on the game. Now, I'm not a big Jimmy Kimmel fan, by the way,
Yeah.
just personally.
I think we could have a long conversation at some point about how most of these late night guys threw their way any comedic chops in the last 4 years, but
Exactly. Are they really funny? No, they're not.
Yeah.
And I think that in a weird kind of way,
I'll give Conan a pass. He's talented.
well, yeah, but poor Conan though. I mean,
I'll give Bill Maher a pass because he actually, this was his
Poor
gig
Conan.
beforehand.
yeah,
But everyone else is just doing the Jon Stewart show, but they're not Jon Stewart because they don't have the heart or the class that Jon Stewart has.
exactly. They don't have the balls that Jon Stewart has.
Yeah, because at the end of the day, they're just pleasing their boss.
That's it. And by the way, they got writers. Don't think that they're just thinking these things up by themselves. They have a whole team of writers, and they're going through things. They're trying out different bits. And some of the stuff I would honestly say Kimmel probably doesn't even know on his own. He's just reading. He's just reading this shit. I don't think for a second that he is really educated about what goes on in regards to how stocks move and how things like that and how this happened. I think he's just reading, and much like I talk about this as well. The separation between church and state, right? How preachers use pulpits to be able to talk about politics. And I'm not saying comedy should be separated from politics, but boy.
Yeah. No, I could, if you want to real quick go through this, I could just rapid fire.
Go rapid fire. Go for it.
Kimmel and The Tonight Show The Tonight Show have the same problem. It's that there's people who are probably not talented enough to be in the position, and they're in there for political or ass-kissing reasons. So what happens then is they have to stay with their job not because of talent, but because of those very things I just mentioned. The problem with Trevor Noah and John Oliver, I think, is the same problem on the opposite ends of the spectrum.
But I like Trevor.
I like him too, but I think he's not living up to his potential because I think they both have a problem of diversity. And which is Trevor Noah. He everybody who speaks on his show is a different shade of a color, but they all speak with his voice, meaning he is obviously writing everything that they're saying.
Possibly.
To my point of view. John Oliver has the opposite problem. He seems like such a nice guy that he farms out the joke to random people from different intersects, and then when he's reading it, it reads like it doesn't come out of his mouth. That's why one of the jokes sounds like it was written for a middle-aged man, and the next joke sounds like it was written for a teenage girl. The next joke written by someone who would only know this cultural reference if they were this race and sex. Mm-hmm. So the whole thing just doesn't sound like his voice. It just sounds like a Mad Libs of sorts. Bill Maher, I give a pass to because
I like Bill too.
He showed that he was talented through this, even despite tough circumstances. And this is his game. The politics stuff is his game.
This is his lane. This is his space.
Conan, you give a pass to because he's just an actual very talented person. I'm sucks that Craig Ferguson's no longer on the air. I would have liked to hear some of his take on this, but we could go down the list. James Corbin, probably the same as the other guy, Jimmy Kimmel's.
Oh, I forgot Corbin.
Yeah,
but Corbin. And
then you have the ones that are just straight up drink the Kool-Aid so far gone that they're no longer comedy first. Seth Meyers, Saturday Night Live, Samantha Bee, these are guys that are so in defense of. In the case of Seth Meyers, so down the Kool-Aid lane, and in the defense in Saturday Night Live,
Kool-Aid
have completely thrown away comedy to be what is essentially comes off as elite. I mean, you have your one of your guys who's from Staten Island talking shit about the people in his own neighborhood that they wanted to open their business. I mean, so that he gets a pat on the head from his bosses who don't have to worry about the economic impact. That's pretty bad. When you kick off Daryl Hannah, who did a great Trump impression, to do what's his name, Baldwin, one of the worst Trump impressions of all time. People out there who want to be actors or comedians, you have to identify with the person you're mocking. Look at what Will Ferrell did with George Bush. maybe he didn't agree with his politics, but you could tell he didn't hate him. You have to, on some level, identify with the person you're playing. If not, you just make yourself into a dunking clown. And it's not comedy and it's not creativity. It's something else. It's just not comedy. And it's going to be very hard for these people to get any credibility back with anyone who is not already in that circle of people who are toasting champagne glasses while calling random poor people racist and insurrectionist or Russians or whatever the fuck. Gross.
Comedy. You heard it right there, my friends. Now that's a rant that needs to be online. You see, you heard it right there. You heard. Now, if we missed anyone, please put it in the comments. I think you did a great job going down the list there.
Thank you.
But again, it goes back to looking at your craft, sticking to what you do.
Yeah.
You know, when you start creating these ideas to appease, then you're taking away, and honestly, you're watering down your message. You're not even. It doesn't even sound real anymore.
Yeah, you're only reinforcing. You're getting. Yes, I agree. Great.
And you can go home for that. I mean, but now you're using the American people.
Yeah, it's really bad.
And that's why I love.
And it doesn't service anyone.
Yeah, that's why I love Dave Chappelle.
Right.
That's why Chappelle is such a giant.
Yeah. No, the great comics, Dave Chappelle, Bill Burr, and others know how to make you feel uncomfortable, know how to change it up, know how to, just when you're thinking you know what they're going to say the opposite.
That's right.
And it's all about making the audience feel uncomfortable. And there's nothing wrong with feeling uncomfortable. You shouldn't be clapping because you agree with someone. And that's not laughter, and that's not comedy. It's just something else.
And by the way, ladies and gentlemen, he does stand-up comedy.
No.
He's dibbled and dabbled.
Very little.
I wish I would have recorded it, but he has done the local coffee shops around town. So he understands. What I'm saying is he understands the craft. Yeah. He's not saying it from a perspective where he's just watching. He actually owns and understands and has some stock in the space.
I just have respect for people who are on the front lines of the First Amendment, and those are stand-up comedians. And these people on late night TV are not. They're actually doing quite the opposite.
They're puppets. They're fucking puppets. This is actual. What you're looking at right now, what you're listening to, is First Amendment work. This is real First Amendment work. What we're doing right here. So when you're looking at it on, late night, it's corny.
Yeah.
It's corny as shit. And you have to expect corny at this point. You don't even look at it to really laugh. You look at it to see what is he gonna say.
Honestly, sometimes I watch SNL just to see what the politics of the next week, or what's the mindset of the politics.
Not to laugh.
Yeah, I want to see what are these people thinking. The guys that do the weekend update, specifically Che. I'll give a pass to Che on SNL because he is not afraid to speak up to power, but the rest of them are definitely are.
But who's writing these things? I mean, how can you pick
I think Che writes his own jokes.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. I said, who's writing this? Because if you can pick out Che.
The lead writer is the other guy. The lead writer is Jost. He's the other guy on Weekend Update.
So someone has to be putting this stuff out. So,
Yeah.
But I guess you can agree or disagree with what you're doing.
Yeah.
And it's easier to agree when you're looking at the politics of the day versus actually making someone laugh.
Yeah, and it's just, comedy, success changes comedians sometimes. Like the lead writer on SNL is married to Scarlett Johansson. Oh.
Well, I mean,
what hardship.
No shame. Bro. That is my white crush, by the way.
It's just a bubble that happens.
Look at Dave
Chappelle. He put himself into, even though he's got enough money to be in that community, he lives himself in Ohio. He goes around to random places on the down low. He probably wears a hoodie and keeps his ear open just to hear what's going on in the street. It's a totally different situation. Look at Eddie Murphy. How much money? And then that's what happens. Some of these comics, they get too rich and then they get too disconnected.
Right.
Like, how could you make jokes and punch up if you were up there and never coming down?
That's right. That's right.
That's how I see it, at least.
Well, that's a good perspective.
Speaking of which, there's kind of some remnants of what happened last time the economy fell.
That's right. And as
some of this animus about the stocks is ties back to it.
Absolutely. And when we look at what happened in 2008 particularly,
Yeah.
right?
Some of this is just revenge porn.
This is
them.
this is about it. People don't they forgive, but they don't forget. And when they have an opportunity to strike back,
Yeah.
they look at you in the eye and say, "Remember what happened in 2008?"
Yeah, I hear a lot of things about like how it was just a recession, or like how it seems like a small number, like only 0.1% of the Earth's true economy was dipped by it, but really it affected a lot of people, especially in this country, in a lot of ways, and I'm sure around the world as well, because you guys didn't even have the shitty housing market that the waves hit you.
That's right.
But
you didn't have the bailouts. You didn't have all of the money go to the top and don't trickle down to the bottom. You know, I mean, it's something else. I mean, I was a firm advocate of not bailing out businesses during that time, especially businesses like Ford and GM, particularly.
Right.
You know, when they decided to take their manufacturing out of the country.
Right.
Instead, we're going to basically bail them out to send the money somewhere else for jobs. I was totally against it. My thing is that let's let them fail and let something else be created.
Yeah, the economic inequalities that were presented there, that happened there, have not truly been reconciled, and there's no telling that. I don't think people who survived that time or were not affected at all by that time realize how much animus there still is about that, even though it was 12 years ago.
Now that Gen X versus
my generation, millennials, were coming out of college to no job market. I particularly did a stupid thing, which is that I had a entry-level job and decided to move to California and almost go really freaking broke and homeless. But I was just like, screw this. I'm going out. And it worked out. Like, I probably make more money here. No, I don't want to get too into that, but I'm doing better than I would have been. But I took a tremendous risk, and it was a pain in the ass.
You see how he's quick to talk about my pockets, but when it comes to his pockets, now if you looked at past episodes, you know already how he always talks about me having money because I'm a business owner, and he knows what you know. But when it comes to his pockets, now he lives at Venice Beach, but 100 feet away from the beach, ladies and gentlemen. 100 feet away from the beach.
One of us owns a summer home. It's not me. Let's see what we're doing right now. Here's the one problem with populism, right? Is that populism, what we talked about the fringes last week combining, and now the populist bases seem to have combined over this situation, but it always relies on you being angry at someone or something, right? And the problem is, where's that line, right? Like if you chop off the heads of all the rich guys, are now like middle class guys rich? Like,
yes.
At some point, you have to have a meritocracy because that's just better for society, and you have to have stuff to strive for, and it's not someone's fault for doing well. But if the rules are rigged in a way which they can't be, and that's what happened in 2008, is that there were rules for one group but not for the other group. You guys survive however you can. You guys are padded. So the problem, and that's why many young people, and now the next generation is getting out too, and they're seeing they're screwed by the coronavirus economy. My generation got screwed twice. The older people had houses that lost them, so they didn't get out scot-free either. But the problem is that you have a situation in which younger people don't like capitalism, because what we call capitalism currently is that these guys don't have to abide by capitalism. Everyone else has to survive by themselves. Fundamentally, I think capitalism is a good thing. I think it's a moral thing in a lot of ways. The problem is it's not capitalism if you're not allowed to fail. It is not capitalism if you're not allowed to fail. And that's what happened here.
But failing is a part of the process.
Well,
that's what allows us to move forward. And that's what I said. That's what creates new things is failing. You know, when you allow when you pad someone up there and they can't fail, that means there's not going to be any room for other people to rise. But with that being said,
that's why we have senators in charge that are 80 years old. Joe Biden's actually the young kid on the block. Think about it.
Don't get me started with that, please. And they went in there as middle class citizens. And now they leave as millionaires.
Right. So, yeah, I mean, these problems are more than a guy with a orange spray tan. And we're here now. And we're seeing that the problems still exist and will consistently exist.
Speaking of the guy with the orange hair,
I thought you weren't going to talk about
I know. Last episode, in the last few seconds, I said I wasn't going to mention his name. But I have to, because we're going into these impeachments. You know, your Democratic Party are determined to get rid of this guy when he's already gone.
Yeah.
So hold that thought. Hold that thought. We're going to come back and we're going to talk about what would be the next phase of the Trump legacy or whatever the fuck that is. I said I wasn't going to say his name. I did at episode 27, at the end of episode 27, but I will be less than a podcaster not to report what's going on in this whole Trump fiasco at the end of his presidency. He doesn't necessarily, in my opinion, deserve the time, but you all deserve the time. So let's very briefly talk about where we are with what's going on with this whole thing. Now, that you would you like to take this one over, or how do you feel about? Because I know that's your boy. I know you like him. So
Go for it. You're the host.
Oh, okay.
I'm gonna sit back and see how you handle this.
Okay. Well, okay. So we already know that last week the House of Representatives, it was a shoo-in that was going to pass. It wasn't even a question. It was going to pass. And I don't know if you all remember, but that very weird video online, as you see they're taking the articles from one house to the other. Everyone is kind of walking kind of like in a parade, and it looks very, very cultish and very military-ish, if you will. But they were taking it from one house, which was the House of Representatives, to what would be the other part of Congress, which is the Senate. So the Senate began talking about or debating about what's going on with this Trump impeachment. So this week, it's been in the Senate, and they've been discussing it. Now, in order for this to pass, the Democrats have to still convince 17 Republicans to side with them.
It's not going to happen.
Right? So Chris said it. I'm going to say it. It's not going to happen. It's
a show.
It's not only is it a show, it's an expensive show. My issue is that we are paying these people to do this just to have a little speck and mark in history to say that, hey, we tried our best to impeach a president that is already at home.
And it's not going to happen because rhinos are in the extinction list, going extinct, meaning the ones that are most adequately receiving revenge for all of this thing by the Trump base is the senators who were against Trump in the first place. So they're going to try to primary anyone who's anti-Trump at this point, because the base, you're giving the base an option between Trump and the stuffy guys who keep bailing out Wall Street. And the people on the ground floor are going to keep picking Trump. So even if people don't like him, the alternative is people who are completely disconnected from them. So if you're not offering them anything and he's offering them something, if you vote to impeach him, you will be primaried by them because they are your voters, lest you forget.
Now, which brings me to constituents, the citizens, the people, right? Now, one could argue that the people are asking for us to do this, but I don't hear in all the chatter, all the people that I talk to, they're not talking about impeaching. The people that I hear are happy that he's out of there, and they're saying, pack it up, get the fuck out of here. They're saying things. They don't want to keep Trump, because the more you continue to talk about him, the more you empower him, the more you embolden him, the more you keep him in the conversation. So why do we do that? Why don't we just say what's done is done? But I'm gonna tell you why. Because Democrats do not want the opportunity to cross this bridge again. They don't want the smoke, as my brothers at the Street Prophets would say. They don't want the smoke.
They're, I don't know why, afraid that it's just that there's no other reason that they're afraid he could make a comeback. But, I mean, it's not like he's proven himself to be unbeatable. Maybe they just ran out of stamps, or...
Maybe. But have you ever had the same nightmare twice?
Yeah.
Have you ever had the same? And was it more intense the second time?
It's more desperate feeling because you feel like. Now we could go into it, but
now this is the sleepy stenographer.
Yeah, sleepy time stenographer right here.
That's the podcast. Thank you. Say the podcast one more time.
The sleepy time stenographer.
He has another podcast, by the way, that he does where he wakes up and out of his sleep, and he basically in a microphone speaks his actual dreams and goes back to sleep, and then later on with one of his good friends, Brian, shout out to Brian, they go over the dreams. So now when you're talking about nightmares, since you are an expert at dreams,
thank you for the plug, by the way,
right? Mm-hmm. Since you are an expert at dreams, what do you think do you think that this has anything to do with the Democrats thinking that this could actually happen again? This nightmare could be even more intense the next time.
I once in a while have a dream that's kind of a nightmare. It's that I'm in a car in the back seat, but I'm the only one in the car. Meaning I'm somehow trying to control the steering wheel or reach for the pedal, but I'm stuck in the back seat. And the implication is that this car is moving along quite nicely on the road right now, but it could crash at any moment.
Wow.
Maybe they feel that way.
Shout out to the podcast.
It's the Sleepy Time Stenographer.
You guys check that out on iTunes.
Thank you.
So the Democrats are in a position now where they can really just walk away from this, but they're not.
Well, because here's the thing. You're talking about Trump as a wrestling heel, villain, boogeyman, is that they need the spice of having the enemy because it was so unifying for them. And now that he's gone, it's going to be, hey, that other congressperson, that Reddit group, that you there, you're just like Trump. No, believe us, everybody. It's just like Trump. And that's what's happening. So it's just been convenient to have a great enemy.
They have to erect another one, though.
Yeah.
All right. So now that we've gotten that out of our system, how was your week, Chris?
Very busy week here in Venice. I'll tell you really quick, and this was not even the most interesting. You know it's busy when this is not the most interesting thing that happened to you.
Tell us about it. Now, sit down, guys, because you know these Venice stories, this is end up being the best part of the show.
I was right there on close to the beach, and who should ride his bike right past me was Arnold
Schwarzenegger?
Yeah, he was in town. I guess the rumor I hear is that his kid, you know the one he had with the maid?
Yeah.
I think he lives somewhere around here. So I saw two of them were on bicycles. As I saw it,
he's a teenager now, right?
He looked like about 20, but I was so stunned by Arnold.
Right.
And he was on a side street where the ground was all crooked. I was like, what's Arnold doing all alone with just one of the guys? You know, he looks fine, but he's older. So in my mind, I was like, oh my gosh, that old guy is Arnold.
Yeah, I'll be back. Yeah. Shout out to Arnold Schwarzenegger. He watches the show. Yeah.
Does it? Oh, that's great.
Yeah. He listens to the show on his travels.
But no, that wasn't the most interesting story.
Welcome to Hollywood, ladies and gentlemen. So when you come to Venice, when you come to Los Angeles, those are the kind of things that happen.
I never bother celebrities, by the way. When I see them.
I'm definitely not one. What do you call it? A star boy, or what do you call him?
A star boy.
Okay, that too. Go for it.
Yeah. Usually when I see him, because in New York too, you would see people from time to time.
Right.
You'd be like, "That's the guy from Mad About You." Anyway, my hot dog's ready.
My hot dog's ready.
But yeah, everyone's a real person, and it was just weird to see Arnold as such a real person because that's the one guy that. From growing up in the 90s, he was not even a human. He was like he was literally the Terminator.
Yeah, he was a giant. He was an icon. He's still an icon. You know, but you definitely can conjure up some good feelings when you see him. You got good memories around his characters.
Yeah, he's just not so giant anymore. He shrunk a little bit from what I've seen. Yeah. A little bit of liver spots. Bloop, 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 bloop. It happens. We'll all get there.
Yes.
Even Arnold.
So what else happened out here in Venice?
Okay, so as I usually walk towards danger instead of away from it, unfortunately, the other day I was walking. I see a psycho chasing a less psycho. Let's put it that way. A Venice situation. So I see the one guy chasing the other guy. He's like, "Please stop! Please stop!"
Was he chasing him on? Was he running or was he on a bicycle?
No, it was like that, mad stalking walk. Like once I catch you, I'm whooping your ass.
Yeah, that's that Tupac walk. You know, if you remember Tupac that night, that was that Tupac walk. I know what you're talking about. Go ahead.
So they walk down the block, and I'm like, shit, I gotta follow them. Because I can't help but not to follow in those situations. I got to see how this plays out.
This guy.
I turned to the block towards the beach, and everyone's calm. Those guys are gone. and I just see people like on their cell phones and stuff. But that's also what happens here. Like if you were to see a fight, people would be half interested and half not giving a crap because
Right.
it's just such commonplace
Right.
scraps between junkies happen. So I'm like, you know what? Let me walk down. I walk down the block, and I see him. There's this bar where usually musicians play, and when I say musicians, this band is there trying to get some money from the people who are at said bar on the boardwalk, but they're not. No offense, guys, they're not great. And sometimes I've seen things where like they're half band, half junkie maybe, or high. Because I've even seen like one guy completely high, spaced out on the floor, playing the drums in the band, like hitting a bongo while also fucking strung out. So this band is more annoying you into giving them money sometimes. Unfortunately, that's their rep, I guess. And the band is now interrupted because the psycho is chasing around the little place where they set up their instruments. So the scene has now invaded the place where these guys just, who like music, even though I just talked trash about them too much, whatever. Their little thing is now interrupted by the psycho. Now I'm watching this thing play out, and they're doing Ring Around the Rosie around some sort of structure like a flower box or whatever it is. And then I hear behind me two people who are by the bar go, well, at least the music stopped.
So they agree with what you were saying to start this whole situation.
So now one of the old guys who was hanging out with the hippies, the music people,
Right.
He gets in between them. He's like, "Hey man, just chill. Why the energy?" The psycho cuts him right down. A combination to the ribs. Pop, pop, pop.
He hits him?
Like 3 times before the guy could even react, and the guy drops straight down.
Oh!
So now the psycho has just beat up an old man in broad daylight in front of a crowd.
Does anyone come to his defense?
Yes. Oh, this is the best part. Okay.
Okay.
So now the musicians join up and are pissed. The leading one of which brings out a stick. I'm going to show you this before I show the audience.
Okay.
The stick, it's like a tree branch. So here's the psycho guy.
Okay.
And here's the tree branches about 5 to 6 feet. That one's for you.
Okay.
All right, this is a little blurry, but here's what happened.
Come back some so they can see. No,
the psycho is there. The defender with the tree branch is there. So the psycho and the tree branch guy are in a face-off, and they square up like they're going to do a karate fight. Sorry, it's a little awkward to show this. They square up as they're going to do a karate fight.
Okay.
The guy with the tree branch revs up in such slow motion that you could easily have jumped out of the way or dodged it. But the psycho stands there and takes a shot of a large swinging tree branch directly to the shin.
Wow.
And acts like it doesn't hurt, but inside you could tell he went, fuck, that hurt. Now keep in mind, he could have easily jumped out of the way of this slow-moving tree branch. He doesn't. So now the situation is
Put that down.
more people are basically coming to the defense, including one kind of husky guy that's coming up from behind, the reinforcement.
Yeah.
But he never truly gets there. So this is the end of the story is great. Now even the old guy has gotten back up, and he's even coming up. So now the whole gang of the musicians is pressing this guy, and the psycho looks like he's going to take them all on.
Okay.
In the snap of a moment, the psycho decides to turn on a dime and book it like a cartoon character full speed in the other direction. At the same moment this happens, the husky guy who is running up gets to the spot where the fight would have taken place and lets out an animal scream like, "No! Like, this is my territory. Do not return."
Come on.
I swear to God.
Come on.
Ah! So
the guy's already booking it out of there.
he's booking it with like high need running.
I mean,
and
he
no one's chasing
he
him.
turned the head around and was like, gone.
I'll give you one better. No one was chasing him, and no one could have. Let's put it that way. So now,
So he got away without even. Oh, he got hit that first time by that stick though. He got the stick once.
he got the stick real hard.
Okay, all right.
But that was because he didn't jump or dodge it. And so now keep in mind, everything's calming down. People are like telling their war stories. The old man's like, yeah, he got me good though. Yeah, oh man, that guy's a dick. Never seen that guy before. Now keep in mind,
Venice.
everyone calms down. The one guy who held the music ground the whole time, the MC was standing there still with the mic.
Yeah.
The guy is way gone. There's no way he could hear what's about to happen. The guy now lets out a threat, which is really to entertain the crowd, but towards the guy who is now blocks away. That's right. And don't you ever come back. All right, people, let's get back to the music. And then the people at the bar said, and that was just a 1 minute in Venice and back to normal.
Wow. That's an incredible story. I love it though. I love it. I love the fact that you even had the wherewithal to just find out, because when you said, like you said, when you first came out, you didn't see it, but you made it right. You actually found what the incident was, and you were able to take a picture and share it with us. And guys, if you're listening to this, jump on our YouTube station, go to American Lunchbox Podcast, check out the picture, because it tells the story. Guys, I mean, are you okay?
I'm feeling great.
All right.
I've been in I've been in worse situations out of curiosity. I got chased with a knife once for my curiosity, so this was just like.
And that's a teaser, because he's
got
going to tell us that story.
I got a story that I could tell everybody for this week. I was in a great mood.
Oh.
Though I felt a little bad for the old guy, but he seemed to shake it off.
The old guy got it worse, because it was a surprise attack. He wasn't prepared for it, because he got up and basically said, "Why did you do that?"
Yeah.
He wasn't prepared for it. But you got to be out. You got to be prepared out in these streets, man. These streets, you never know these crazy people. You never know.
Yeah.
This is real talk. In Venice, Los Angeles, wherever you are, maybe.
Yeah.
You got to be prepared for the crazies. So, man, that's a great story, man.
That's why I was a little shocked too when I saw Arnold, because it could be a little rough here. And remember, he got drop kicked like a couple of years ago by some crazy guy.
Yeah.
And he shook it off too.
Yeah. And
these old guys shake it off good, man.
Well, it's that muscle memory. They've been in stunt situations before. They know how to prepare themselves,
Right.
and also too, they know how to walk away. You see, because all that guy needs to do is realize that this is Arnold Schwarzenegger, and then Arnold goes in at him, and that's a lawsuit. You see, so you got to think about that. You got to think about that. So, but listen, man, it's been great, man. It's been a good show.
How's your week?
Oh, see, now finally, I see this guy sucks up the air in the podcast with this great story. Now he finally asked me how my week was. Well, no, my week.
I see you
was
got
great.
a new scarf. That's
Nice.
Nice.
That was going to be the highlight, by the way. Again, if you're listening to this on another platform, last week in the early part of the show, Chris I mentioned how great Chris looked. He doesn't look great this week, but
it's kind of like my work outfit.
Yeah,
I don't
know what happened.
I had a nice shirt that was a little too tight for air.
Yeah, he went to wardrobe, and they this is what came out of wardrobe. But okay, so last week, he said to me that he mentioned that he had given me a beautiful scarf, this nice chiffon number here that I'm wearing, and I forgot the scarf at my office. And there's some ladies that work at the office, and so I thought for sure that they were going to try to claim it. But when I got back to the office and I mentioned the fact that I had lost it, one of the guys was like, I have it right here. So it made me feel good. So today, jump over to the YouTube station if you listen to it. Check out this beautiful scarf that Chris gave me. It's a beautiful piece. It's like I said, this is like a nice chiffon number that Chris picked up for me. No shade. It's beautiful. I like it. And thank you, Chris.
You're welcome. Looks great.
It's definitely a beautiful prop for me, and I like it. So my week was great, man. Again, we've been just revving up, man. I'm going at 100 miles per hour these days. I got my hands in a lot of different things, and we're just revving up for the what we had talked about, the COVID business vaccine.com. If you haven't seen it, check it out, COVID Business Vaccine, where we are helping business owners get their the funding for them from the SBA government loans that they're handing out because of the CARES package and the stimulus package that Congress just passed. So we're excited, man. You know, we've already connected with a ton of people from the first round. Now we're hitting the streets. You know, go to the website, check it out. We're going to have a map where I'm going to be where I'm going to be boots on the ground helping businesses. So, I'm just all over the place. I'm in my element. I'm feeling great, you know, and if you know someone, even if you're looking in another place in the United States, feel free to jump on. We can help you even from where you are. I know we got people in Virginia, we got people in North Carolina, we got people in New York. If you need help filling out these forms for the SBA, we are here to help you as a resource. So definitely jump on that.
And I would just like to say to the people out there, be inspired by our host here, because this is why it's always good to start something new, is because whenever you start a new venture, it comes with new energy. And
facts.
You gain experience each time you start a new venture. So that's one of the great things about entrepreneurship, is that don't be afraid of it.
That's right.
You don't have to also give up your day job. You could do something on the side. It would probably be better for you than just watching Netflix. So
yeah. But watch us though.
New.
But watch us though.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, and beware
on Pandora,
iTunes, Spotify, Intune, Radio.com. Make sure I get them all. YouTube, obviously. Because if you're watching this, you're already there.
Yeah, I have a neighbor here who's in her 70s and is an inventor and still, you know, patenting stuff and trying to get things to market. So yeah, I just love the energy, the independent spirit.
Yeah, never too late. Never too late. And if not now, when? And if not, who? You. So let's get it started.
Right.
So, man, great show. Before we go, do we have any cheers to? You have any cheers?
I want to give a quick shout out. There's something funny that.
No, we're not shouting. Now we're doing cheers to.
Cheers to. Okay, well, cheers to and or.
This guy doesn't know what to say. It's written on the board here. Cheers to. They see that right there on the board. Now shout outs. Okay, go ahead.
We talked about. I'm trying to figure out a way to connect this. I guess like. The people at the top versus the people at the bottom.
We are the small acts.
This is a shout out to a few of the people hanging out in the mud. Let's put it that way.
I'll take that.
There is a group that's called Rednecks with Paychecks.
Oh, and shout out to the Rednecks with Paychecks.
What they do is they put on. I just found out about it. This is hilarious. They put on an event where they take their money and do really dumb shit with it. And one event that they do is called the Barbie Truck Downhill. And what they do is, you ever see those Power Wheels, those little kids?
Of course, every daughter had one. Every daughter had one of those.
They take those and they do a race where it's down a hill and around a curve in the mud and in the dirt. And it's, you're top heavy going down a hill on that little thing made of plastic. And you're an adult. And if you want to see jackass levels of people smashing their face into the wall, and also some people who land the trick. Once in a while, people will land it, and there's a crowd there going bananas and drunk, and there's an MC there, and they do it. Yeah, now during the Corona, it's the same. It's just the same event as always. It's in Texas, but it's really entertaining, and it's like you start watching, you can't take your eyes off it. So shout out to that. Whenever things get back to normal, I want to be there.
Oh man, now that's what we call white people shit. You see that right there? So everybody who knows what I'm talking about knows that's white people shit. And for me, I'm the hedge guy. I want to bet. You see, I want to bet to see who's going to win. So I know there's got to be some numbers going around in there.
Yeah, it is one of the most entertaining things that you've never seen. So please check it out. Rednecks with Paychecks.
Oh man,
Downhill Barbie something or other.
Cheers to the Rednecks with Paychecks.
Cheers.
Cheers, man. Hey, cheers. Also too.
You all right? Did someone spike your drink there?
I know, man. I want to say cheers to the guys over at the office. Excuse me.
For not stealing your scarf.
For not stealing my scarf. Cheers to the guys over there at the office who are helping me with the website and all of the stuff. So, and cheers to all the new businesses. Cheers. Boop. Cheers. Okay, let's try this one more time, guys. I was drinking like an amateur. Sorry about that. All right. Well, this show is done. And we thank you guys for listening. Again, hit subscribe. And the mortal words of my great, loving, wonderful dad, Clarence Patterson, he would tell us during this time as needed. He would tell me, he would tell you, and I'm telling you what he would say. He would say, "Don't ever let the times change the lines in your smile." Bing. Thank you, guys. We'll see you next time.